it's a great question. So basically when I started, I left small town New Brunswick, went to the big city, and my goal was to actually run for political office. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a member of parliament. And then I get there and I realize that no one elects 18-year-olds. So there's a bit of an issue in that. And so I was studying political science and I was enjoying it, but I also realized that at the time there was a string of minority governments. And so every 2 years there was a full changeover. And it, to me, the future prospects of having stable employment that I could be successful with, I started questioning a little bit. So during a summer after my second year university, basically what happened was I was working part-time at this little restaurant in the Byward Market in Ottawa. And then at the end of the summer, the option came up to buy it. The guy that owned it said, "Hey, you know what? I'm moving back to Australia." He was originally from there. He said, "I'm moving back, and I'm looking to sell. Would you be interested?" And so I said, "Well, I've got no money, no training, no support or mentorship. What could go wrong? Let's do it." So turns out a lot can go wrong. So anyway, so I dive into business. I'm 20 years old. And so for me, like the goal was always to, how do I find something that I can do, that I can provide for my family? And my goal, and this, maybe goes back to your question a little bit, what drives me forward was that when I was young, I grew up in a small business family. And my mom was always there. She worked nights at the hospital. And my dad and my grandfather owned a small business. The only issue was that they were on call 24/7 because they were virtually the only employees. So there would be family vacations that we would have planned, and all of a sudden there would be a call and we would have to cancel. Like, we canceled Florida vacations. We canceled all these things that came up just because he had to work. So I understood the work ethic. But I also knew that he wasn't able to attend, all my basketball games, because there was work. And, I didn't get it at the time when you were a kid as to why he was doing what he was doing. You just know that your dad's not there. So when I got into a position, when I started looking at my life, I said, I want to be there for my kids. I want to be there to have a family, but I also want to provide the life for them that they deserve. So the only way I could figure out how to do that was to have a business where I work really hard and, work insane amount of hours so that later you won't have to. Now, having said that, at 20 years old, I figured that I was going to work 20 hours a week and make six figures. But clearly, that's not what happened. That's what we all think. We think we're going to get into business and we're going to work less and make more, but we often end up, working more and making less. So I went through a real time of struggle when I was doing that. It was 80-hour work weeks, 100-hour work weeks. I took 2 years, no days off, because the only reason I know that is because I took Christmas Day off one year, and then the following year I even worked Christmas Day because I couldn't even afford to miss out on one single customer. So literally we had like 15 customers that entire day, but I needed every single dollar revenue, right? And then I worked all the way until Christmas Day the next year. So that's how I know I worked literally 2 years straight. It's the only reason I know that. And we were open from 10 a.m. in the morning until 3 a.m. Like it was long days, right? And I was also part-time in university at the same time because my family didn't want me to stop going to university. So I was still doing 2 classes. So I would work until 7 p.m. and then I would have an employee come in between 7 and 10. I would run to campus, which was a 10-minute walk/run away, and I'd run back. And anyway, so, and if somebody didn't show up for their shift, well, guess what? I didn't go to class. Anyway, so I don't necessarily know if that answers the question, but that was a little bit of my origin story, if you will, and getting started in the restaurant industry. Why would someone want to work that hard? The truth is I didn't realize it would be that hard. But I knew that it was important for me to do something worthwhile that could eventually provide for my family. And I knew that, having a stable job, yes, might be easier in some ways, but wouldn't get me where I ultimately wanted to go, because then, the work would obviously conflict with the family later on. So I wanted to make sure that I set myself up in the future to be able to have the life that I wanted.